Probably one of the most common things that people want to do in a lucid dream is to fly, so today I'm going to be sharing some tips for that entire process. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you can stay up to date when my new videos come out. And if you're wanting to learn more beyond what's just in my videos, then I highly recommend checking out my book, The Lucid Dream Book, which there'll be a link for in the top right hand corner and down in the description below. There's a wealth of information in that book, and if you go to check out the page for it, you'll see a list of all the chapters and what each of them contains. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on to flying in lucid dreams. So the first thing that you're going to want to do if you want to fly in a lucid dream is figure out how exactly to take off. Now before you do this, basic safety, do a reality check first, confirm that you are in fact in a dream before you do this, and obviously take off from the ground. Now my first time flying in a lucid dream, and many of the early times that I did it, what I would do is I would strike a Superman pose and I would jump up in the air with my fist outstretched in front of me and I would go flying like that. And the reason that that worked is because, I'd seen Superman do that in films and so on. And so my subconscious saw that as some sort of existing means that some person could fly, in theory. It doesn't matter that it's fiction and that you know it's fiction. If you've seen a character use some particular means of flying, you can copy what they do. And because your subconscious remembers that, it's often going to work and allow you to fly. Another thing that you can do is use a tool to fly. You can spawn yourself some sort of drone that you can strap to yourself or sit on top of. You can spawn yourself a jetpack that you can put on and use to fly. You can give yourself a set of wings or something like that. Anything that you believe would allow you to fly, you can spawn that and then use it as an actual tool to do so. But more recently, the approach that I like to use to fly is to just use my mind. I just imagine that I'm going to take off from the ground. I imagine the world getting further away from me. And as I do this, that actually happens and I'll start to take off. A great time to practice flying using your mind is if you ever practice wild. If you practice wild and you don't use any of the techniques that require you to first get into sleep paralysis, and you just skip straight ahead and get into the dream right away, then you're going to find that sometimes you enter a dream before your body is fully paralyzed in bed. And when this happens, you can still feel your body in bed, and you can intuitively know that if you tried to move your arms or legs, it would wake you up still. So what you can do at this point is try to move around exclusively using your mind. Just try to will yourself forward, will yourself backwards, will yourself up, will yourself down, and practice this until you get comfortable with it. After some time, you'll find that you no longer feel your body in bed and you can actually feel your body in the dream, at which point you can move normally, but you can still move around using your mind, and this is a great way to actually fly. Because when you're moving around with your mind, you're not limited by the way that your body wants to move normally based on how you've gotten used to it moving around in waking life. So just imagine yourself slowly moving up from the ground, and that should start to happen. Don't worry if it doesn't work the first time, give it a bit of practice, and then you'll start to be able to move around using your mind. Now when you do this, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to take off quite slowly and it's going to be quite controlled, or you might find that what happens is what happened a lot for me over the years, which is that I would take off, but I would take off really quickly and I would shoot up into the air. Now flying around like this super fast is really fun, but I would caution you to be careful when doing this because you might find that the dream destabilizes and ends. When you move around really quickly, what happens is your brain has to then generate all of this new terrain that you're suddenly able to see from shooting up in the air so fast, and doing this so quickly can just be a little bit too much for your brain to keep up. When this happens, sometimes the dream can start to get blurry and destabilize. That doesn't mean this is always going to happen, that doesn't mean that you should expect this to happen, but if you find that it does happen for you, then you should try to slow down and practice slow flying, and you'll notice that you don't have the same problem there. And it's not just the speed of your flying that can impact this. I find that the height of your flying also impacts this as well. See, if you're flying further off the ground, then you're seeing a much wider array of terrain at once, and you're also seeing terrain from a view that you're probably not used to. Now, if you take a lot of flights and you're constantly looking down at the ground beneath you from the plane, or you're a pilot yourself or something, this might be a little bit different. But if you're someone that doesn't normally see an aerial view of the world on a regular basis, you're either going to want to change that, which you can do by looking at Google Earth or Google Maps in the satellite view from above, or you're going to want to fly a little bit closer to the ground so there's less terrain for your brain to generate and less unknown variables that your brain hasn't really seen much of before. Personally for me, I find the sweet spot is flying just above the tops of houses. And this has an added advantage that it also makes it very easy to land later on. If I'm just above the rooftops, then I can just really quickly come down onto a roof. And if I'm not even able to control myself to move down, because for whatever reason I've gotten out of control, I've been flying too fast or something, then I can literally just look for a roof that I'm level with and fly directly into it and land that way. Speaking of which, let's talk about landing. So this is going to depend on your approach to flying as well. You can, for example, switch off your jetpack if you're using one. You can sort of allow yourself to glide down if you're using some sort of wings. You can try and turn and orient yourself towards the ground and just fly in that direction. But what I like to do again is to use my mind to pull me down towards the floor. I simply imagine myself being pulled in that direction. And when it comes to landing, as long as you're close to the ground, you don't have to worry about speed. You can land really quickly. You can just zoom down to the floor and it normally works just fine. But if you want to practice your flying skills, then try and land as slowly as you take off. The next thing I want to talk about is flying long distances. If you want to get from point A to point B, flying isn't always the best way to do that. It's often a lot quicker to teleport or to simply imagine that the place that you're going to is on the other side of a building or on the other side of a hill. But if you are determined to fly there, then what you can imagine is that in the distance, as you're looking at the terrain in front of you, you're going to see the thing that you're headed towards appear over the horizon. And then just look towards the horizon and zoom off in that direction, and you should start to find that what you're looking for appears. Don't be afraid to use several attempts if it doesn't work the first time. If you're looking to fly shorter distances, make sure you do keep it slow and controlled, because as you're flying up and seeing a larger span of the terrain around you, all of the existing scenery is having an opportunity to change. So if you're wanting to keep things on the ground largely the same as they were, you're going to want to keep the movement minimal and try not to travel too much distance. And what about if you're flying and things start to get out of control? Maybe you took off way too fast and you're just zooming away from the ground and you don't even know how to land. Or maybe you're flying too fast and things do start to destabilize. What can you do then? Well, this is where I suggest just spinning around really fast and allowing a new dream scene to form. Sometimes when you see things have gotten too chaotic, too out of control, it's quicker to just say, okay, scrap this dream, let's go for a new one, spin around really fast and wait for a new dream scene to form. Another approach is simply to continue with the process and allow the dream to destabilize naturally or to restabilize as it may do. And if you find the dream ending completely, just remember to stay completely still in bed and wait for a new dream scene to form. I hope you found these tips on flying helpful. Do remember to check out the Lucid Dream book. And if you enjoyed this and you want more videos like this one, make sure you subscribe and enable all notifications to stay up to date when my new videos come out. And if you want to keep watching, check out one of those videos on screen, go watch that, and I'll see you there soon. Take care and have some awesome lucid dreams.